So Christine Height, our chief school administrator, who's unbelievable. We were so lucky to have her. She wanted to be here tonight for your presentation, actually, but it's her daughter's prom tonight. So yeah. So we let her out. So we'll say that's an excuse. So just an overview. First of all, as I went to confession a little earlier, about an hour ago, I said to Larry, I said, this is kind of a lie, because it says by Lewis McCall. First of all, there's, everything here is taken from someplace else, but Larry did a lot of the work too, as you'll see some of the, where are you? You'll see some of the, especially on the deeds, to how this school came together. It's pretty amazing stuff I never realized. Like, right, the lot you're sitting in, I don't want to take away from my thunder a little later, was donated for $1 by Edward Farr. I never knew that. So who knew? I mean, this guy was like everywhere. So donating stuff. So pretty amazing. But still, getting back to the macro side, you saw how when the town was put together, it wasn't put together for okay, here's the borough, here's the school, here's the fire department. They did everything together, and it was all the same exact people. And they all had the same, they would trade roles in title, just kind of like what we do now, actually. It's pretty funny. So, and then even if they weren't in title, like Edward Farr was pretty much what they called the district clerk, and I'll explain that in a second. But he followed Bailey. I'm sure Bailey was up doing something else. George, came off. Edward came on, and Edward would every now and then come off like for a year or two. And then he'll be back on for like 10, and then be off for a year or two. But you would see his activity never changed. He still did all the same things for the school. So kind of like what we, in a lot of ways we do today with some of our volunteer organizations. It doesn't really matter what your title is, you're still going to do the same thing. So that was pretty cool to see that we were kind of still reflecting that, in today's standards. But it was also kind of amazing today. I was telling the executive officers before we had a little pre-meet, on some bylaw changes, and that you guys will hear about in the near future. But anyhow, today, I use the word fiefdom. It's not that we have different fiefdoms, the school versus the borough versus, whatever, so all the organizations. But you have some very structured individual organizations that have walls, maybe that's the right word, but, they're very standalone, where you see the names in here for the school where it's all the same people who started the town. As a matter of fact, the Improvement Authority was the National Improvement Authority that we'll talk about. That it was started by the railroad. The railroad started this town. I'm sure I'm talking to some people who know more about the history of this town than I do. But so please, especially you, Larry, tell me what if I miss something or if I'm incorrect, you know better. But the Improvement Authority, said, hey, let's, we're getting the town together, which means we're getting school together. So, and we're starting the fire company. So, and it was funny how we'll see in some cases where things that we accept the borough does today, or the town does today, they didn't do back then, because like trash, they didn't pick up trash. That wasn't a thing. So, yeah, it wasn't a thing. So it didn't even hit them. We'll get to, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but that's the macro picture. So, I mean, how interwound, all the organizations were, because it was the same people. And that even if they weren't technically, legally, whatever they were last year, it looks like by reading all the minutes, they didn't change. They still did the same things, which is kind of neat, because it does remind me to some of the, like the Historical Society and others, it does remind me a lot of our organizations today. So that's a cool thing. So let's get started. So we got to start from the very beginning, because again, this is where we all get going. Sewell, actually, General Sewell, he's with the Mansfield Land Improvement Company. So he pays $25 in February of 1871 to incorporate the Mansfield Land and Improvement Company to get to Wenonah. So that's how we start the town. So he signed, interesting, again, this guy's like everywhere, General Sewell. He was a general in the Civil War, but had a little bit of a drinking problem, so he actually lived in Camden. So, but he was all over Wenonah. So you just saw him signing the Articles of Incorporation to start what became this town. It started with the the Improvement Authority, as you see as posted in the park. So, but you'll see his name on the bottom, as issuing the timetable for the train, so coming through town. So, and at this point, that is a timetable, 1872. So you could you could leave Wenonah here if you read this timetable. And I apologize, this whiteboard actually, it's not that sharp. Tomorrow, if you're an expert on whiteboards or anybody else who are teacher-oriented, let me know on this. So it's about as sharp as I could get it. But you can leave Wenonah at 7:30 and arrive in Cape May at 10:55 in the same morning. I know the Farrs were big with their summer home in Cape May. They had a 23-room summer home in Cape May. Yeah, that Lucy Schultz knew where it was, and I know she told me once, and of course I didn't retain it, but I remember saying it was on a corner. So, but they would always take the train from here to Cape May.
That tells us exactly.
Yeah. So we started with pretty much the Improvement Authority kick-starting the town through the inn, which back then actually was the house. I'm sorry, technically I use the right names here. Wenonah House, this is where you should jump in on me. So, so it starts as the Wenonah House, so 40 rooms, and this is a slide I believe, Larry, you did it, we put it in the park, right? So, at this time I think there were only 10 houses in town. So it was right about here they started thinking about schooling, because with 10 houses we had kids come into town, but they were, at this point, they were either shipping them out of town or taking them to private school. So, no teacher yet. So, the Wenonah House later became the Wenonah Inn. I think, is that your hand, Larry? So talking about this is a little, that probably should come a few years later, but 12 miles of Philadelphia, from Philadelphia on the Pennsylvania Railroad system, which back then with the sub was West Jersey Seashore. So high, healthy, picturesque surroundings, pure water, and I'm sure we've all seen this. So, but it was interesting how the school would also use the Wenonah House and Wenonah Inn. They all, and even when they moved out of the original school, which we'll talk about in a second, they still went back to it from time to time. It's absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I know I did. Let's put it into my shirt. So, this is, I don't know, you would say, what you would call this. So here we have William F. Allen, one of Scott's, right there, experts on. He just pencils down on this piece of paper that he's going to sell this house for this lot. And actually the house I thought was relatively expensive. If you could look at the detail, it actually says the cost of the house is $2,000, which I thought was pretty high for back then.
What year?
So this is 1872. And the lot is $150 from the Improvement Authority. So, actually I thought that was kind of expensive. And it's noted, if you can read down that little chicken scratch in the middle, it says, but this lot is outside the 100 acres. I don't know what the 100 acres means, but I guess there was something commonly referred to as the 100 acres. Maybe still what Stevenson had at the time, Isaac Stevenson. So, but.
I think Winnie the Pooh has something.
I was wondering where that was going. So here we have Thomas Sinnott. Thomas Sinnott was one of the first board presidents of the first Wenonah School. What else can we talk about him? So he was into everything, just like Bailey and Farr were. But Sinnott and Bailey were a little older. They came sooner in getting things started. Farr actually was quite young at this time, and still going to school. So.
And Sinnott gave the church?
Well, one of the Farrs had an issue with that statement, so I think I talked to you about that. So Wally Farr told me that that father donated the land. Tom donated the money to build the church, and then the manse. Again, all the land is from Farr, and then the manse was from Farr. So
Yeah, Hannah Bailey Farr gave the manse.
yeah. So according to Wally, so who's long deceased now. So, but a great guy. So. George Bailey, we probably all know about George Bailey, about his ties to Sunday school systems and. But he was the first district clerk before Farr became of age, really, got old enough to be district clerk. So in the very beginning at the first school, it was George Bailey. Again, these are all the names we see running the borough. running everything else around here. So this is how the minutes start, and I was blind after reading Larry's folder on these. So on this one, this is the first minutes of District 54, which is us at Wenonah. And if you could read the middle, it talks about employing our first teacher, Sally Bailey. That's George's sister. So as our first teacher. And notes in there, if you could read that, and I did with a magnifying glass. September and October 1876, the class locations are to be the Wenonah House. So until the first schoolhouse was finished. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be blind by the time I finish this project. So this is the second page of all time of the minutes. We got Secretary Treasurer, the Mansfield Land and Improvement Company, talking about who that is in here and yada yada. So it got a little better. So as you went on, the penmanship seemed to change. So, but I was still going a little nuts here. This is interesting because it talks about the first teacher's salary, and we know who that is. That's George's sister. That's Sally Bailey. And she got paid for the year $400. So, and if you think that's not enough, you'll find out later they actually asked for a reduction. They went back to her and asked to take 10% off that. So they thought they were overpaying. There is definitely a theme of penny pinching throughout these minutes. So as far as you can see, right back to the early. Now I know Edward Farr was very, I don't want to say frugal because it sounds negative, but he was very stingy sounds negative too. He watched every penny. So it's a good way of saying it. So.
Frugal is okay.
What's that?
Frugal is okay. You
Yeah,
can
frugal.
say
Okay.
cheap.
Okay. Give me that one. So this is a bill that has not been seen in many years, that was uncovered in this basement, for the first Wenonah School, 1876, 1877 coal. Now, part of this is to go to the Wenonah House, and part of it was to go to what you guys know as Noblet's Hall, the first school. But again, that's a misnomer because Joe Noblet doesn't buy it until the school sells it later. So, but the Marion Avenue School. So you'll see, it looks like about 4 tons of coal for $21. So, you know, it really gets you mad reading some of these prices because you understand how bad inflation has gotten. So, you know they were going to be small, but not this small. Some of these numbers, you look at it, it's like, this can't be right. So thank God, Larry, in his folder, I find that someone, I don't know who, maybe do you know who, went and started going through all that penmanship and typing. So, what are we up to now? We're up to, is that 1876, 1878. So here on this page, some things I picked off it. Someone did this, I think, what I could tell from looking at some notations, it looks like the 60s. They started going through some of this. Now, I know the Historical Society didn't exist then, so I'm not sure that would be, but there were a couple notes in there that had 60s dates on there. But I know the Historical Society didn't come to be until the 80s.
Maybe
So,
Marjorie Lance.
yeah.
Maybe Marjorie
Yeah, I don't know.
Lance.
Anybody's guess. So-
Or Milton Webb.
Yeah. But we note total collections for 1876, $395 for the school. Less expenditures resulted in a deficiency for the running of the school of $186, which was pretty big back then. So Andrew Carey, the person who had the ship, who was Paul Lader's house. So he was the first to bring up that we should tax the people in the town for the school, so we don't, have this problem again. And who's going to pay for this? So he proposed a taxation for school purposes, the very first one of all time, at $300 at the time. So This is obviously the first school, so what we know as Noblitz Hall, but again, we didn't sell it yet to Joe Noblitz, so it's the first school. So Dr. Bailey moved that the Board of Trustees at the same time authorized to build a schoolhouse. $2,500. Did you pay $2,500 for that? You said you bought that,
No,
right?
but we didn't pay much more.
Really? Wow, so I guess it was in bad shape?
No, but I don't know, the VFW sold it for, I might be mistaken, but I think we bought it for $10,000 in the 80s.
How about that? Yeah, well, things were a lot different. Yeah.
It was definitely not over 20, but I think we paid 10.
Well, they built it for $2,500, so, back then. And you can see in the top picture, it faces the board president's house, Tommy Sinat, so, so, yeah, so not far. And the land was donated by the Improvement Authority. So the Mansfield Land Improvement Authority gave them the land, so to get the school going. So they could bring more people in to buy the houses. So it made sense, so, back then. This is the, I think a pretty cool rear view. So, yeah, with both Tom's house and, I should say Mr. Sinat, because it was the father. So, and the back of the original schoolhouse. And you can see the bell on it, it's notable as well. So, yes, this is Marion Avenue, if you don't know, Marion and Mansfield. So, behind Wenonah Medical. So,
Exactly.
yep, you can see Wenonah Medical there. So we're back to, thank God, some typing. So I picked off of this one, March 1879. So it shows a motion they proposed, which actually died on the floor, proposing past minutes be changed as they misrepresent the view of building a new school. So Andrew Carey was upset that it was put in the minutes that pretty much people wanted a new school, and he argued they didn't want a new school. He was very anti-building of the school, for both that school and this school. So he eventually resigned. But again, I didn't know anything about Andrew Carey until I started reading about this, besides he lived in Paul Lader's house and had to ship. So. Now this, yes, this is interesting. I have this up here because I don't know what the hell it is. And this is an example of a lot of what I saw, where, you know, okay, I could figure out coal and this and that. So here we have a payment for the district clerk, which is George Bailey, you see. And back then, this is the way they did things. There was a lot of, this is a receipt, so it's George, Mr. Bailey, Dr. Bailey actually, paying $75 for some fee, but if you could figure out what that is, you're better than I am. You know, and signed by the county clerk, Paul Loudenslider. But tow fee for receipt, something, district to something. And so a lot of it, so I put this in here, it's kind of a funny example. Everything else is not like this. So, but there were a number of like this, like, what the heck? I mean, you could not figure this out no matter how much you studied it, no matter how many times I showed it to someone else and say, what do you think this is? So, nothing. So anyhow, it's just a little sidebar. So, all right, so this is this is how we're standing now. This is the Mansfield Land Improvement Company 1878 report. You know, they're pretty much still running the town, even though the town now has a name, so, of Wenonah, but we're really, when we say a town, we're still Deptford. So keep that in mind. So, you know, we always talk about the town came to be in 1872. It really didn't, so it's Deptford, so, still. But, you know, but we have our own little place, much like we may end up still having down the road. But, you know, it's still this area, and we have our own school and that kind of stuff. So, so they talk about it in here, in there, if you read the expenses and revenues, some of the things I picked out. They repaired the mill in Wenonah for $18, so down at the lake. They had farming revenue they took in from the town of $11.60, so they must be owning the lots and selling it to the farmers, I'm guessing, because it's farming revenue. So, and then they had $16,300 as an asset for new houses owned by the company and rented to people in town. So that was kind of, I've never seen that before. So a little different. So we just thought they got in here and started the town left. So evidently not. So back to the next type one, we're up to 1879. The district clerk asked the teacher to reduce the salary by 10%. So noting that everybody else is taking a reduction, so you should too. So Sally no longer gets $400. So she's down to $360. So, and she actually stays at $360 for a long time. So, and again, this is stuff pulled out of this basement. So in a big metal box. So it hasn't been seen since pretty much it's been put in that big metal box. And by the way, the metal box was ever Farr's. His name's he wrote his name all over it. So it's pretty interesting that it made it down there and lasted so long because it was an accident.
Are you saying that school?
What's that?
School basement?
Yes, this basement down here. So we're not going to do that tour because I would lose half of you down there. So it is like a typical old basement. So yeah. So all right. So this is the district report. District clerk. And the district clerk, I started talking about that. Today, the president's the president, the business administrator is the CFO here, the chief school administrator in this school does everything, but you have usually a superintendent and a principal and everything else in most other schools. You have very defined roles. The district clerk seems to be the super person, superman or woman, that kind of does everything. And although someone may be president, they don't do much. Not saying that I do much. So, but the district clerk seems to be the roll-up of the administrator and the CFO in one. They pay the bills, they negotiate the contracts, they bills the schools, negotiates with the teacher, talks to the town. It's very, goes after taxes. It's very different. So in this report of the district clerk in 1879, it was the first time that they balanced the budget. So at $3,221, bless you, for revenues and $3,221 of expenses. So. This is the first and only picture, Nora may have more, of the students at the original schoolhouse over at Marion Avenue. And I believe if you look at that building now behind Wenonah Medical, I think this is actually, as you look at the building, the left side. There's a similar setup on the right side, but it doesn't work unless the picture's been flipped, which is possible. So. But we have, looks like 2 teachers there, which is odd because I don't have 2 teachers mentioned, but we have 2 adults and the children of the time. They were the Wenonah school students in we don't have a year on it, but it's got to be in the mid-1870s. So, we're up to 1880, 1884. So we now have a mandate that the salary is not to exceed $35 a month. So. And in 1882, Thomas Sinat is back to being president, and they talk about hiring a janitor, and for the first time they're allowing other people to use the school because they need the money. So they rent it out to the Grange. What is the Grange?
Farmers.
What is it?
Farmers.
Okay, well they rent it out to the Grange, but they say you got to hire your own janitor. So our janitors aren't going to do yours. So, and that's the stipulation. So that's in there. So this is our first, that we could find, our first report of apportionment of school funds. I'll show you what that means. So they'll put the towns, they'll collect for the county a total money of a combination of sales tax and it's not really property tax. So it's a couple different taxes. And they'll show, and this is kind of a census report, comes out once a year. It'll show the number of students here. So we're still Deptford. So along the other Deptford schools right now are Almanesson, Monongahela, Wenonah, and Westville. Who knew Westville was Deptford? I didn't know that. That was kind of cool. So, and we're showing, we're logging in at 50 right now, the smallest, but Monongahela is only at 60. So it was kind of interesting. So if you look at some of the other names on here, so Mantua includes, if you look at the Mantua district, it includes names such as Knights Run and Emlyn. Mark, you probably know some of this real estate. So, yeah. So all Mantua is 382 students. If you take all of Deptford, it's 340 students. But the city of Woodbury had the most back then in Gloucester County, very by far, 766. And most of the kids in the county were in the city of Woodbury. So in that year, so 1882. You got a little more type notes. Teachers are now asked to be in class 15 minutes before the morning and afternoon classes, so I guess they had separate classes. So, and it was for the comfort and order of the classroom, the board ordered. So, 15 minutes before both morning and afternoon.
Because they went home for lunch.
I guess they do. So, here we have Mrs. Farr expressed a desire. Now I'm thinking Mrs. Farr. Now there's two Mrs. Farr that I know of, not County have. So there was the first Mrs. Farr, then the second Mrs. Farr. The first Mrs. Farr was a Green related to the Cooper family, and then Bertha came second after the first one died. Passed. Edward had 5 kids left, and he needed someone else to help. He remarried. I'm guessing that's why he went that way. But he had 6 more kids, making 11 total kids. Yeah. So I come to learn that it's Hannah Farr that's really involved in the school. And she keeps on promoting, it's like, you don't have enough books. You don't have enough books. You need more books. And there's lots of notations. You need to get these books. You need to get those books. So Mrs. Farr expressed, in here, Mrs. Farr expressed a desire that the school have more books, additional books of reference, and at least books of history. But she's going to do a list and submit it to the school. So, interesting. So we know where that library comes from. But that was neat to tie that together. So Edward, you know, is relatively younger than Tom Bailey, George Bailey, and Tommy Sinat. You know, he's actually still in school when the fire breaks out at the big 11 square block plant in Camden, and the father dies. Hannah's husband, his father, you know, who's living in town, dies of pneumonia he gets from fighting the fire at the plant. So he's actually called up to become an adult kind of quick. So he gets given this very large business of the Farr and Bailey oilcloth, which was the biggest business in Camden at the time, no matter what book you read. So what they did was, if you don't know, they made oilcloth. They would take clipper ship sails back then originally, go up and down the northeast to the sea captains and the seaports and say, hey, I'll buy that old, you know, sail off you, and we'll give you money to go buy a new one, at least towards a new one. And they would do that, and they would carry the big sails back to Camden, lay them out, and imprint them and slice them up. And that was the first oilcloth. You guys, who could give a better explanation of oilcloth? Anybody? So a lot of people would also point to, like, you remember back in the 60s and 70s, who could remember? So the red and white checked thing you put on your picnic table, that supposedly was also oilcloth. I know when my house caught fire, and the firefighters came in and punched holes looking for the fire in the ceiling, at the very top of the roof there, as well as some of the sides, it exposed oilcloth. So they sheathed my house in oilcloth, so for moisture purposes, which is probably, you know, great for mold too. So keep a lot of moisture in. Yeah. So anyhow, so he really, I mean, Edward really takes his school and runs with it, which is, I always knew he was involved in the school for a long time, but I never knew how much until I got involved in this presentation. And it was kind of neat to sit in his office as I did this presentation. So yeah, that was a little spooky too. So, yeah.
Did you hear
Hello?
Yes.
The oilcloth, they went and bought the sails. I wonder if that coincided with maybe steam engines, boats that were sailing ships.
Oh, no, different story.
I know, but maybe that's.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe they were able to buy them.
Yeah, could be. I mean, anything possible. So here we have a letter from the county superintendent, what used to be in Williamstown, interestingly. So the county superintendent letter dated November 24th, 1886, appoints Edward L. Farr as district clerk after George Bailey resigns. So George is, he's had enough. He's a little older, so Edward, a little young whippersnapper, comes in and takes over. But now he's still running the business over there. He runs an orphanage. For those of you who don't know, he started Cooper Hospital, and you know, he's got that thing. I mean, it's really, I don't know how many hours he had in his day. So absolutely amazing. So, and that's a later picture of Edward. This is the same picture that's over the public library as you walk in the doors. So. So, this is an invoice, thanks. Everybody else was quiet, you're the only one that did. So this is an Edward Farr invoice and receipt of payment to Celeb Thurlow for attending school fires for 9 weeks. Dated March 1887. So he's paying to attend the school fires at the first school for 9 weeks, $5. So that's every day for 9 weeks, $5 to keep those fires going. So you're talking about the light fires as well as the stove fires. So, and then clean the ash.
It's only in the winter.
That's true.
Well, I don't know about that. It still gets dark in the summer, you would think, or in the beginning. I don't know. Who knows? It's could be. So, and again, these all came out of that box. This stuff has not been seen in 120-something years. So here's a town purveyor. This is R.J. Clark of Wenonah, New Jersey. Yes, we did have businesses here originally, so contrary to popular opinion. So R.J. Clark, and this is a whole year bill. Actually, I lost my. So, but if you look at, he's got a broom for 20 cents, some dustpan 60 cents, but he has the dates too. We start in March 5th and we go all the way into December. So he just kept it and just added to the bill. And at the end of the year, he sent the bill to Edward for $3.76. So, yeah. So 1887 right here in Wenonah. So that's. It looks like we had a pretty good start here in Wenonah. I got to tell you. So I mean everything from butter to flour to brooms and you name it. So pretty good general store. It looks like it was.
Do we have any idea where it was?
Those were Hawks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, Clark's. You know where it was?
Yeah, the store Hawks.
Yeah.
That was 3 East Mantua, with nail salons.
With the nail salons. How about that? Yeah. So it looks like we had a pretty good start in town.
I know it was some kind of ice cream place where
Yeah.
Hawks was or something.
So, Farr and Bailey, just give me a second here. So Ed Mudge. So this is Edward Farr. This is written on his company letterhead, Farr and Bailey, nothing special though. Oilcloth, Camden, New Jersey. You know, today I have to attest that I do no business at the school. And if you're employed by the school, you have to attest, as a matter of fact, in 10 days I have to do it. We do it every year, that you have no business with the school, and your family doesn't have any business with the school. He bought everything. So this man, and it came from sometimes it came from his company, and he just charged, the school for what the company paid, and, it was just business. He was just getting the cheapest price back then. Where today, we have all the, and for good reason, I'm not saying it's wrong, so we have all these safeguards now, so. For whatever. But here, Ed Mudge got paid for sweeping the entire schoolhouse September 1877 to March 1878. So it's dated March 7th, 1888, and got paid $8.34 for the year. So it must have been no tip, I noticed. So and then signed Etta. So we're up to the air pump. So I don't know what they needed an air pump for, but we found this little gem, bought from a microscope and photographic company. Edward purchases for $12.75 from the W.H. Wellesley Company in 1988 this air pump invoice. And again, it's amazing that we can find these things in our basement here. So this is, I'm sure you got your Wenonah Water Company bills. So this is our one of our Wenonah Water Company bills I found in the box. So it's January 1988. It's an invoice from obviously the Wenonah Water Company for the schoolhouse from January to December, the whole year for 1888, $7.30. And signed by Edward L. Farr, so for payment. So. And this is just another example, as you go through everything, his signature's everywhere. No matter where you look, everything's signed Edward L. Farr. And it goes on for decades. So, and this man's running like all these other businesses. So you feel so inadequate when you put this together. Now, this kind of caused a very interesting stir in town. So, you know, my neighbor, E.P. Henry, also known as Ted, his kids go to the school. They didn't know that they were around and even did this. So I told him, he was shocked, and he asked for a copy of the original, which of course has been misplaced since, but I sent him the electronic copy. But it was a very high maintenance thing to keep the blackboards going back then. I don't know, they shave them and redo them, but E.P. Henry came in back in 1888, which they didn't even know they were around.
I think it was like a slate or something.
I guess, for plastering the blackboard, so $1.30. So to Everett Farr, the public school. So that got E.P. Henry kind of excited. So this is so John Wanamaker, the John Wanamaker, was very good friends with Everett Farr. They were both good friends and members together in the Union League, and they did a lot of things together. When the Wenonah House was here, and then Wenonah Inn, Wanamaker would always make sure that they would have their off-sites here in Wenonah. So, and he would rent out way in advance for the next, he would always in a year in advance, and very much like the fireman's convention, where you have to rent your room for next year as you leave. So as he would leave, he would actually rent for the following year, like 6, 7, 8 rooms or suites for his, executives or whoever to come and stay a week. So they were very good friends, they did a lot. So Edward, of course, also did a lot of business with John Wanamaker. And we had a number of invoices, I just showed one, but this is for the dictionary. They got a Webster dictionary from John Wanamaker for $9.20. So, and this is our original invoice for 1889. So, but that was the reference material back at the time. Now, this appears to be in Edward's handwriting. It looks like what he's trying to do in classic Edward style, he's trying to compare 1880 to 1890 on what he calls the census. So I don't know if that's the census like today, or back at the schools had a lot of things called census back then. But he'll look at the value of the school lot that at one time was 400 in 1880, and in 1890 it's now 600. Good. Building he still has the same at 2,500. That's what they put it in for. Furniture has gone up 150 to 200, and the apparatus, if that's right, $10. But let's skip that one. I'm not even sure that's right. But the library, $10 to $200. So Hannah had her way. So Hannah had her way on that one. So, but then we talk about the different revenues, funds raised by taxation with the poll tax. So there wasn't a poll tax in 1880. It looks like it showed up, and the school must have participated to get some, and it's $89. So, but the state looks like it's kicking in now too, $350 to $711. So, kind of interesting. So, yeah, his little notes. So, this is another Wenonah purveyor. This is S.H. Chu here in Wenonah. They were the coal people, which I assume were either, no, in front of the fire company. Yes, in front of the fire company. So all those crazy signs that say no parking, fire company only, that outnumber the number of members of the fire company, that's where the coal bins were. So at the time, so that must be somewhere where Chu was located. And we're looking at hauling trash and ashes out of, and 1 ton of egg coal. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of egg coal. I never did until I read this. So, but I assume that's for the stove. So something must be small and good for the stove. So. All right, so we're back to the typed 1893. So this talks about, the red up top talks about that there's a lot of discouragement in town, and it uses that word, if you can read up top. Discouragement noted, as well as disappointment, that a lot of Wenonah school students are starting here doing very well and making Wenonah look very well, making the teachers look very well, and then they go off to private schools. So this is what that red talks about at the top. So that was interesting, that 1893. So here we have that women are encouraged to vote at the meetings and even especially attend.
Wow.
Yes, and that's how it's phrased. So that is 1894. And then, again, this is the summary of the school minutes. So I mean, imagine this for the school board. So here we have that there's a plan to sell the old school for not less than $1,500. And then Joe Noblet did come in and buy it for $1,650. And then it talks about the new school building, just a building, should be not more than $6,500. But they did sell bonds to the public for $7,000. So it's not like it's done today where it's done through your taxes. They literally went out and sold bonds to people, as investments. So it never hit the tax rolls. So, and that was at 5% interest, by the way.
Wow.
Something that would be very sought after today. So, this is a work of
I
art.
noticed on that other one in 1896, the whole piano thing was noted.
Oh, did I miss that?
See that in the middle? Doesn't that say piano presented by?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so this ties in great to the 1896 piano presentation that we have here. And it's going to come up again. I think that's why I didn't talk about it here. So I got your articles, but I also have you. So, yeah, so in the board, so noting it, so piano presented by the Philadelphia Times as a result of the contest first prize. And actually, we'll talk about a little bit more because that's kind of cryptic. So Larry did this. This is this lot here, this combined lot. So this is the original school as it sits, the 1894 school. And then it was interesting. Like right now, you're sitting in E, and that was owned by Farr, who then donates it to the school for $1. And then again, this is when we're moving to here now. And it's also owned by two of Farr's sons who went to the school, Wallace and Tommy. Now, they were in 1903 and 1905, respectively. So they're not very old. So I guess Edward put that, just put their names in there as co-owners. But then they just gave it, and they gave it to the school. And there's another lot, I forget which one, but if you read this, there's another lot. Do you remember which one? I mean, yeah, exactly. But you did a heck of a job. I had no idea that Farr was here giving land too. So, all over the place. So, but they gave it for $1. Now if you weren't Farr though, the land was acquired for like $300 or $500, depending which lot you're looking at. They would purchase it from whoever. But anything with Farr was $1, and he's got a couple lots in there. So, I mean, amazing. So this is, again, in the box. This is the township school election notice that was nailed to the schoolhouse as well as poles around town, posting this bill, noting that the election is going to be held at the Wenonah Inn at the amusement room. So, and it's not like an all-day election; it's at 8 o'clock. So yeah. So that's something. So not like we think of it today. The polls open. No, 8 o'clock. Be at the music room in the Wenonah Inn across the street. So we actually had the original election ballots. So that actually is a button through all the ballots. So for the trustees, which was the board back then in 1894, the year this building came in, and I had to show the business administrator and chief school administrator that slide because the finance committees now we're instruction, operations, and administration, and we're always looking at like, well, are there better ones? So back then in 1897, so finance, building, supplies, all makes sense. Visiting. Huh. The visiting committee, okay. So, and teachers. So, and if you look, FAR's in there a lot, so I have to suggest visiting, so come back. This is the tally of the election. So Harry Stout, FAR, so all the names you know, so. And kept in the box here in the basement. These are the actual ballots. You saw the cover before. Flipping it over. This is a ballot. You'll see you had to write out, they had 9 they asked to be voted on. So you had to decide on 9 names, but people changed their mind and crossed them out. And you see this person didn't cross that far in there in the end. But think about it, there's no computers. So like, yeah, it makes sense. But you never really thought about it until you see it. So, and then to see their names crossed out, that's kind of interesting too. So, all right, so now we're pretty much at the time 1894 of this building. And this is, well, you're big on the separation of church and state. So back then, you bought your furniture from the New Jersey School Church Furniture Company. So I know it's going to tick you off. But that's where we got the furniture from. So for this school, this is September 1894, the bill, $377.89. And the school, we had an east and west upstairs, and we had an east and west downstairs. So 4 classrooms. So, and then all the new desks. And it was called like the new era desk. I think we'll see that. So these were the new, modern desks. So the freight on the was 19 cents. So yeah, for those. Yeah. 19 cents. I mean, like just to do the bill and put it out and mail it. 19 cents. It blows your mind. It blows your mind. And again, signed by Edward Farr. So he did everything. So, so here's our notarized payment. Wenonah Board of Education notarized payment to the school church company. So very formal. I mean, everything was a process. Everything was a process. So, and obviously it took a lot of time. It's no click and copy and paste back then. So again, where do these people get all this time? So
No TV.
no TV, I guess. So this is, I showed this to our business administrator here. So this is to George Wiest, building contractor payment. So July 1894 payment to the contractor to Charles Peddle as his 3rd payment on the building. So again, very formal, received the Board of Education, yada yada. So, again, these things have not been seen in 100, and you're the first eyes to see them in 100 and something years. We found this in the box, and we're always fighting on bathrooms here and keeping them up and keeping them working and all that stuff. They had an issue even when the building was new. They had to come in and have the guy come back and give some extra plumbing. So if you read the fine print, it talks about more hookups in the water closets. So, and then someone just wrote on top of both extra plumbing. Yes, it was inside. So, and again, how everything was so formal. Before they even bought their furniture, there was a memorandum of agreement that they were going to buy the furniture, and then describing all the furniture. So, but I guess to be fair, that was a lot of money, $394 back then. But again, the amount of time you're seeing how things progressed back then. So, invitations were sent out to see the new school. It was published in the paper. School opening was actually delayed a week for finishing. It said in one article finishing of the building. Another article said it was delayed because of the church school was late a week. Maybe that's why they should separate. So delivering the furniture. So, and that's the other article. This is our first school register in the new building. So pretty proud. We're pretty modern now. So our first state report. So, and that is our new building. This is taken opposite of the outside of the tracks. So you'll see the tracks are down in the middle. And looking at the new school with the school bell. So, and you'll see one of the 2 double twins down here are already there. They actually predate the school. So. This is an invoice Edward Farr bought. See up top, Edward Farr. So for 12-inch Joshua globes from the Queen and Company, 12/24/1895. So we got the school already up and going. So this was around Christmas time, Christmas Eve. He was out there. So in 1895. So buying his Joshua globes. So another apportionment monies. Now we're up to 1897. A little looks a little more modern of a report, so, and I won't get into the dollars, but I will show you that we were 50 the last time you saw in the ETAs, we're now up to 99, so, for Wenonah. So, and he actually has a little dot next to it, so. And, yeah, from his box, so. It appears that Edward wrote the state treasurer saying, I want my guys in your pension. And the state writes back, it's like, well, as soon as your guys or gals, organize and become, a union, we'll put them in the pension for their, so it's kind of interesting. It was nice to see he was looking after the teachers, so, back then. And again, this is a district clerk that does everything, so. All right. So we got, I plucked off this one, enrollment now is up to, we're at 1899, enrollment's up to 132, so we went from 99 to 132. We're growing, the town's growing. It's noted in here that the advanced class is sent to Woodbury, it's 3 pupils, and that the school was also closed in respect for President William McKinley, so, which I assume was his death. So. Plucked off of this one, the school was closed 2 weeks due to scarlet fever in 1903. So, and that they've added civil government, general history, geometry, bookkeeping, and physics to the curriculum. So, yeah. I could just see, Christine, we're going to add physics to the curriculum. It's an undated picture here, right here at the east side. It's got to be pretty close to when the building was new, so based on the lack of anything around the building and landscaping. So, a little later, so nice shot. Trees planted now, a little bigger. So, and now we're getting into another farm bailey. We bought a lot of burlap. I don't know why. Does anybody know why we bought so much burlap? I mean, besides he sold it. So, but green oilcloth burlap, we bought it a lot even in the old place. I mean, again, I just try to use one invoice of each type, but even we had a lot of invoices even in the old school for a lot of burlap. This is green oil coated burlap. So, yeah. So,
Was it rubs?
I don't know.
Did they burn it?
I don't know. Why would it have to be green to burn it? So I don't know. Yeah, it's, I don't know why. So it's one of those, a lot of things, I went through actually raised more questions than answers. But one thing that's interesting here is he gave us a discount of 1/3 off. If you see, it's $16.20. He took off 1/3 just because it's us. So, and it's him. He's selling to himself. So, and then he says, because we pay, and I know he was notorious for this kind of stuff based on some invoices I see with my house being built. So, our house, sorry, being built. So, cash discount, 4%. So he takes off 8 cents for that. So to pay himself $2.05. So,
But you see the title of the company, Floor and Carriage Oilcloth, Linoleum and Decorative Burlap.
yeah.
So maybe the burlap was.
Maybe.
Drapes.
Burlap drapes.
It's only 16 boards. I don't know how long it was.
I wouldn't put around those burning fires. But yeah, anybody said. So now we're up to the piano contest. Now, Rick, this is stolen from you. So all this stuff. So at this one we have the Constitution 1895 talking about how the town is all absorbed. And Rick, maybe you want to say a few words on these or?
I mean, how they were absorbed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like, this thing ran from October to the end of December. That was the total thing. You bought a paper, there was a coupon, you had to mail it into town to sit in Philadelphia within 7 days, okay? Guy who lived in my house put a sign up his window, said, just bring your tickets here, I'll bring them into town. The number of people in the town then was about 400. We somehow got 411,000 votes in those 2 or 3 months.
Think about that. 411,000 in a town of 400. Yeah.
claimed that papers were coming in from as far away as Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, I don't know how you could get the paper, get the coupon back up within a week, but.
Yeah, absolutely
But
amazing.
we got 411,000 votes and we won a piano.
But not only was the whole town rallied around the school, the whole state was rallied around the
Yeah.
school. Philadelphia was rallied around the school. I mean, it was weird because they were supposed to be competing against us.
Yeah, but I guess some of them, just like in Woodbury, apparently Woodbury was just sending all their paper votes into Wilkins and he was bringing them into town.
Yeah. And he was mayor, right? Was Wilkins mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the first.
He wasn't mayor when this happened, he was the first mayor, but not.
No, I think he was here like as school board president or something.
Yeah, he was one of those that they kind of
Yeah.
took different positions.
Yeah, he was like everybody else.
Right.
So it's like, what hat am I today? So, am I historical society or a school board? So this is an article about winning. So, February 8th, 1896, Philadelphia Times, and that's who did the piano contest. And then this is an article about the whole big day they had of them coming into town and giving us the piano, and they had a big all day, hullabaloo. So the board president talked about how they won because when we saw we came up to 5th, we just said, he says in here, we just need to get moving. So on this, and he goes, and it's this kind of strange quote, and I guess you saw this one too. All the world loves a lover. It's like, what? I had to go back and read that a couple times, like, well, maybe I'm missing something here. It's like, did we misquote him or something? I guess we were a lover back
We
then.
don't have fail in our vocabulary or something like that.
Carpeting? Oh, that's it. Yeah. So Gary looked it up and said, burlap we use for carpeting. Well, thank you. That's more than I've ever heard. So,
That's probably why they had to change it all the time.
Yeah. but we have a picture of the piano in here.
Oh, good, okay.
You scooped this. We didn't know about it, Historical Society. School didn't know about it. And this is huge. When you found it all
You're in
this
the
stuff.
basement, did you look for a piano?
No.
That's
No.
probably-
Yeah, termites
There's a
probably.
picture on the website of the 1952, I think it is, Mrs. Moore's second grade class. I think the piano in that picture is the piano.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because you can look
In
up.
52.
You can look
That
up,
might be the picture I have.
you can look
yeah.
up the brand of the piano, whatever it was, and see what they looked like back then. And that sure looks like that piano in the 1952 picture.
Yeah, that might be the picture I have. So this is a picture of some of our students, but dressed up for the 4th of July in 1899. Yep. I don't know. Fill in the blank. I can only show you what I know.
I don't think it's a mustache.
Again, I'm promising you, I will show you things that have not been seen, ever. So probably since the, put
And
in
this
this
might be
box.
one of them.
So since, yeah,
Where are they?
so I don't know. So,
Too happy.
you know, and the funny thing is, and Vic, tell me if I'm wrong, but this looks like our house across the street. And this must be our house in our yard. That looks like the house across the street from us, next to Henry's.
And what year is that? We don't know.
1899.
That predates Wally and Tommy.
I don't know, it says 4th of July.
They look very unhappy.
Well, okay, would you be happy?
It's probably 90 degrees too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's probably all wool.
Yeah.
Yeah, wool, yeah. everything's wool.
So we've now turned the century. We got our first, brand new modern century school register in 1900. And by the way, I got into a little bit of trouble. I was telling these guys before in our pre-meet. So about 3-4 years ago, they brought a truck in to shred all this stuff that was all in the basement because it was everywhere, and you couldn't move down there. So the business administrator at the time hired a truck to come in, and they're supposedly licensed to do all this and to work on these type of documents. And they took everything, and some of the good stuff I carted off and gave to Larry, including this kind of thing. But the business administrator was telling me yesterday that, no, I'm supposed to stay with the school. I said, well, you should have seen the basement. So, and that they shredded most of it, which we were very surprised about. And it's like, well, it's really supposed to be private and stuff. I go, but at what point?
Yeah.
So this is from the register, and I just wanted to, no notes on that one. This was, just to point out that they actually would report to the state, this is a state report, nothing like we do today, you know, everybody, how they did by name, by subject, you know, which is unheard of today. So, I mean, imagine what would the state do with it today? So this one, I just want to point out some of the names here. If you just want to note some of the names, think of today's names: Edna, Nellie, Ethel, Gertrude, Myra, Ada, you know, Nellie, Bertha. Yeah, Olive. So Edna again. Edna was quite popular.
Great aunt.
And my grandmother's
Yeah. Yeah.
great aunt.
So again, more as everywhere, son and everything. So, they published in the paper the third grade class report cards. So one thing I heard the other day was, oh no, you can't put it in. I got an article that was published in the paper. So by name. So I mean, some people didn't do all that well. So 57. So
Yeah, they probably got made fun of and stuff.
yeah. All right. So this is my favorite postcard of all time for the school. So, and I know Larry, you know this one pretty well. I don't know who, it says, "Dear Mary, I kept my promises, Helen G." I don't know who Helen G is. I don't know what the promise was. I kept my promise. But it was May 16th, 1906. I assume it was graduation. This is about the time they would graduate. But pretty cool. So you can see how big the trees are now in the front, and we got some trees planted finally around the school. So 1906. So, "Dear Mary, I kept my promise." So, I'm going to guess 1910. This one, class pick. On this one, check out the shoes. So, yeah, some of the ties.
Cotton leather.
So, 1910 classroom that is in the original 1894 with the modern desk as the church school. Some of our mayors are up top here. These are the mayor's pictures. So you'll see the same pictures over at the train station. The Wenonah Daily Times, Mrs. Peddle, the entire 8th grade class of the Wenonah School successfully passed entrance to the Woodbury High School. And the graduating exercises are going to be held back at the old school. Now Joe bought it from the district, so it's now Nobbins Hall. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So what was interesting back then is when we did graduation, it appears here, they would be in conflict often with all the other graduations in town, because everybody would graduate at the same time. It's like, what other graduations? Well, the military academy, the military academy would do them over a number of days. So, and then the Sunday schools would have graduations at each of the churches. So often the kids were in the same night, different graduations. So something we don't see today in Wenonah. I showed this one to our chief school administrator. I said, but you're not going. So this is an article, Woodbury County Times, 1910. Yeah. So Miss Carrie Stevens, principal of Wenonah Public Schools, spending a month in Cape May, attending the summer school of manual training, as she did last year, to be able to teach manual training in the school as required by the State Board of Education. So for a month in Cape May.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what manual training is. The school business administrator said it was to use manuals. So, okay. I think she was serious, actually. So I don't know. I mean, it's maybe she was kidding. I don't know. Yeah. So just to tell you what's going on in the world, because again, this is all one world back then. So golf. So several very wealthy men of our country in Philadelphia have purchased 150 acres of rolling land, many natural attractions fitting for golf. The golf course will include 18 holes, handsome clubhouse, which the building is actually still there, with all the proper appointments is being erected and ready for September 1st, 1915. The course is about 15 minutes walk from the school, and all its privileges will be open to the cadets of the academy. This is obviously for the Wenonah Military Academy. But a lot of the people who ran the school were also running the military academy at the time. So,
That was Oak Valley, correct?
it is Oak Valley, and that was the Oak Valley Country Club. So,
And there were,
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
there were stables there too, weren't there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sand.
Yeah. So 1916, I believe.
They got one boy that was like kissing her, and that was one of the.
Yeah.
So get a little more modern. shoes are kind of the same. Ties have kind of dropped off. So, our budget for 1918. So, poll tax, $200. Railroad tax, $150. Garbage collection, $72. But note, for the year before, there was none. So this was the first year we started collecting. We started doing, I saw that. It's the first year we started doing trash. It was 1918. 1917, they didn't do it. So, or it was free, one or the other. So. All right, now we're at the pandemic, 1918. So there have been quite a number of cases of epidemic in our town, and it seems to be on the wane. As our doctors, Harry Stout, who was a board member here, and H. Wilson Stout, I don't know if it's son or father, have been untiring in their efforts to fight the dreaded disease, visiting patients and treating them at their home, morning to night, without regard for their own safety and comfort. So. There's an article about, are you physically fit? It's like, hey, don't get sick, get healthy. So, a lot of things sounded very familiar. Borough of Wenonah, all public gatherings, including public schools and churches, are hereby prohibited in the Borough of Wenonah until October 12, 1918, by order of the Board of Health. William Cattell, President. So they did have a lockdown, so back in 1918. So we found the article. So this is now, we're moving up to the 20s. So we're now dedicating the opposite building. Now I can't wait to ask this, you may know this answer. Why did we build a second building down there and not attach it to this building?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I know you weren't here in 1922, I'm not saying that. But I thought, does anybody know? Does anybody have a clue?
Construction,
So,
so they didn't disturb this building when building it.
or we didn't have the lots in between, I don't know, one or the other, who knows? So, at the time, so. But we're announcing the new school building, so. This is Miss Edna Townsend. Isn't this like a relation of yours? No? I thought everybody, 20 was a relation of yours. So, Miss Townsend, Wenonah education teacher in 1923. So. And speaking of 23, these are some of our students. 1923. And this looks like it's taken against the new building on the other side, the brick. I swear we saw the same metal. So, these are the boys, 1923. And that is Lucy Schultz, bottom right, 1923.
All the way in the right-hand bottom corner?
This is Lucy. And man, tell me that doesn't look like Lucy.
Not beside.
God bless her. So at the same time, again, Wenonah Military Academy, as we were doing graduations, they're graduating, but you notice they do it over different nights. So hot times in Wenonah, so in May and June. Edward Farr, oh. The teachers were blown away by this, for the ones who saw this. What are you going to see in the next couple slides? This is a periodic paper that comes out from the students of Wenonah School. It is a professional paper. It is bigger than newspapers of today. It has ads, it has fundraising, it has an editorial board, it has an opinion area. It is unbelievable. So, from the elementary school students of Wenonah. So, and you read this, it is extremely professional. So, they took, the front left is an article by Edward Farr, what it was like, this is again, this is 1924. This is like right before he died, actually. He died in 24. And they took an article, what it was like to go to school in Wenonah. But look at these pages. Well, that's actually his article, Recollection of his School Days. He talks about how when he first came to Wenonah in 1875, that he would have to get on the buckboard with some of the other students and go up the hill to Monongahela School. So that's how they, before, again, that new school came in 1878. So before 1878, and before it was at the Wenonah Inn, you had to go somewhere. Like I told you, he went elsewhere. He went up to the Monongahela School. They would hire, a bunch of parents would get together and hire a farmer to bring his horses on buckboard, and the students sat on the hay in the back of the buckboard, and that's how they went to school. And that's what he talks about. So.
And that was the location where the school is now?
Now, where they're
Where the
redoing
middle
it.
school is?
Yeah, up top of the hill. So, yep. And again, this is all the same newspaper in the same edition The Wenonah School News, you see the editorial staff there. So, they have puzzles and word games, again, and it comes out every quarter. So they have ads, the Wenonah, yeah, the Wenonah Drug Shop, so,
That was the one that was,
yeah. Simplin, this Simpkin store, so. I mean, this is, I mean, our teachers looked at us, they thought of our students, hey, not, you know, just like, what? I mean, high school, this would be impressive. So, 1924. So, commencement, we're 1924, ending the year, this is our commencement exercises. Give me time to catch up. And we had our chorus, our piano solo, of course, you know, like in every commencement exercise. The class prophecy. Yeah. Bouquet of roses was presented from the class. So, I mean, pretty neat stuff. So. Oh, was it? I didn't even catch that.
Something for two valedictorian.
How about that? Yeah. Huh. So, it was an amazing box opening this thing up. This is, now we're up to 1926. Talking about our graduation, you can see we have a supervised play for the grammar school, but I'm kind of organized by the Wenonah, what is now the Lions Club. If you don't know where the Lions Club come from and why there's no women in the Lions Club, because Lions are co-ed. The Wenonah Lions Club is the old Wenonah Men's Club. And what happened in the 1950s, as we were doing the 4th of July parade, as the men's club always did, someone from the Mansfield Lions came up and said, you know, if you call yourself Lions, we give you insurance on your Lions for your parade. Oh, we're Lions! And that's how we have the Wenonah Women's Club and the Wenonah Lions Club. So this is still back in the men's club. So, snowstorms predicted for December. Our graduation exercises in 31. We have a lawn party as a play during the graduation. I don't think people today would sit through that. So, 34, some of our members. A lot of FARs are still appearing in here. And what did the kids do? So when we talked to, Vicki and I went down and met Wally Farr at his insistence, born in 1903 in the house, and one of the people who were on this lot, who donated, as we sit here, back to the school. Wally would talk about when he got to Wenonah School in 4th grade, and this would be, I guess, the old school, because, yeah, it would be old school based on when he was born. You were allowed to bring a shotgun to class in 4th grade. So everybody couldn't wait till they got to 4th grade because you bring a shotgun. So, but he talked about how the teachers were very strict, that you couldn't, like, you know, be goofing around with it during class, and you had to keep it with your coat in the back. And of course, you know, so we kind of expressed some surprise. So, as a matter of fact, didn't I mention this, Karen, in one of our presentations in the Historical Society? And
I think so.
my head almost came off by the glare I got from Christine Height in the back, chief school administrator. So, like, what are you talking about? So, but he talked about it because you got to remember back then there was no basketball and hockey. And he goes, so everybody went out and went muskrat shooting after. And he says, and pretty much all the kids in town learned how to muskrat shoot from George Parks. He was one of the founders of the fire company. He lived at the carriage house behind our house. So Parksy was his nickname. And George would teach everybody how to shoot muskrat. And I remember Tom Murtha talking about the holes in his kitchen floor. So I said, Tom, I know what those holes are from. But they would shoot rats. So in that, because there was a stable underneath, and so there was always rats in there. And they would shoot the kids to shoot the rats in the house. So, anyway. So when the military academy went down, and they had that huge amphitheater, you can see at the address here at Marion and Cherry, it became the Wenonah roller skating rink for the students of Wenonah. So, who knew? So, I think we're now up to 1940. Kids are starting to look a little more modern. So, we're rolling now. So, no, 39, take it back, I was off a year, so. So we talk about the boy in the second row, second from the left is Bud Sunt, who later became the head of neurosurgery at the Mayo Clinic, and was chosen to operate in the brain of then President Ronald Reagan. The doctor was featured on CBS television program 60 Minutes for his selfless dedication for his work, dying of bone cancer. He continued to operate in most of his patients at the Mayo Clinic until his death in 1991. So, class of 39. So Milton Webb, everybody remember Milton, right? Talked about his memories, that there were 2 buildings when he went here. So 1 to 4 grades in the new brick building, and classes 5 to 8 in the old stone building. So, because originally everything was in the old stone building, so this split it apart. So, kind of interesting. So, matter of fact, I think this is up there on the Historical Society. So, if you want to read more about it. So,
Who's had manual training?
what the heck is manual trading?
I don't know, but that's.
Yeah, the voice by Captain Knight.
That's why.
Yeah. So here's another combination.
Woodshop considered manual training?
Okay, wood shop. Yeah. I don't even figure this out. So they sent the principal for wood shop.
Well, women, my mother took wood shop.
But why would the principal be the person to teach it?
She was staying in Cape May.
She got to spend the money. She volunteered.
The girls had sewing classes. A big honor was to be on the safety patrol still. So penmanship was given great importance. Today it's out of the curriculum. So many hours were spent learning the Palmer method. So we know that.
And May Day festivals,
yeah.
we had that.
Arbor Day.
Yeah.
Each year they planted trees.
Yeah. It's neat to see, especially knowing Milton. So the Groucho Marx. So we got 2 articles about Groucho Marx. I guess his sister lived here? Sister-in-law. And so he would be here from time to time. It would be a big to-do. And there was a picture I saw somewhere that I could not re-find of him skipping rope with one of the students in one of the streets in Wenonah. No relation to this picture of Chief Sheets later skipping rope with the students. But do you know when this was? 50s, right? I got no date on this. So.
It's earlier than that.
Is it? I have no idea. So, but interesting. So talks about it with the students of Wenonah and the children of Wenonah. So I guess the family picture there, Groucho Marx comes east for rest. He would vacation here. So with I guess the family that lived here. So they would still use the old school to do their plays. Today we use for our plays, we have our all-purpose room. But when they built the original school, the Board of Education actually said they wanted the second floor of the original school to be for entertainment purposes. So yes, that was actually in the board minutes. So they would continue to use that school. I don't know if it's the second floor, but they would, to do the plays. So interesting how today, we just think, okay, you go to the school for plays. They would still go back to the old school, which they actually had a piece set up to do such entertainment. So, our pill factory friends, so sponsoring that. So, a note of thanks for education of the Wenonah Methodist Church. So this is another example where we're having, coming across lots of graduation ceremonies, but it's not here. So this one's the Methodist Church celebration. So May and June was a very busy time around here. So we're up to 52, we're almost done. So we're looking a lot modern. So you see they've lost all the things around their necks. So at this point in 52. So same picture, just in the old school.
I think
that's the piano. So that was one in 1896, right? So with the teacher proudly in the back. No, I think it's regular piano.
Girls.
Oh, I'll show you some dresses coming up. So, and this is actually the back of that picture. And Don Richmond's in here, if you know Don. Still lives in town. So, Mrs. Richmond, who worked here forever. So, this is Richmond's husband. We're up to 53, I think. Different classes. And still in the old building. early 50s. So this is a picture with now 55. So now we got the new building in between. So for whatever reason, we put the old school down there. We've now figured out, well, maybe we should attach them. So they added 4 more classrooms in that piece that connects the building they built way down the block with the original 1894 building. And I've yet to hear a reason why they did that. But so you can see this is one of the first pictures we have of that building in between. So and we still got the school bell on top. So the neighbors haven't complained that bad. Yes, sir.
If you look at the year built, the FAR building in 55, it's population-wise, it's baby boom. A lot of kids born in the 20s.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
probably
You're right.
need to expand, and then in 55,
Good
of
point.
course, baby boom.
Good point. Who wants dresses?
Huh?
Look at that, huh?
What year is
That's what
this?
It's around 60. It's either 59 or 60.
cut there, but.
Yeah, it's 59 or 60. But very pretty picture,
If you
taken
see
in front of the,
maybe figure out,
of more of our modern building, because this was our main entrance, and then we turned it around when we put that middle section in.
You know any of the names on there?
Yeah, I think they're all there, actually.
Yeah, I mean, did you recognize them?
No, I didn't. So, I mean, there were some that were familiar. So I added this. This is an Edward Farr picture, the only one they have, and it says that, of all 11 children that presumably went through here. But some of them actually donated land here. 2 of them. Wallace was on. This is Wallace. So he owned this lot that you're sitting in right now. So with his dad. But you know, it was not unusual to have very large families. Now 11 was unusual. I'm not saying that's typical. But you saw a lot of 7s, you know, and 8 children, 7 children, 5 children coming through the school. So, so as it says, this is the only time all the Farr children were together because they were pretty far apart. The first wife of the Cooper lineage, you know, she died, you know, around the turn of the century. Then he remarries Bertha, you know, who lives until the 50s. So, and then has 6 more kids. And we're up to the graduation of 61. So don't forget to get your skin test for tuberculosis. Many of us could remember this. So we don't do this anymore. But remember those good old times. So check your arms. So returning to school, 1965. This is Vic. You never gave me your picture.
Is that Mrs. Daniels?
Getting close, right? 65.
Past, by
So
then.
anybody seen the movie Animal House?
Wait, is that 65? Might be in that.
I swear, that's what Animal House took this from.
If I said Mrs. Daniels, that was my first teacher.
4th of July.
Yeah.
So this is a letter in '76, we're at the bicentennial. The Honorable James Florio, dear Congressman Florio, this is to certify the company flag was flown over the Capitol on January 28, 1976. I understand that you and the freeholder Barry Kennedy will present this flag to the Wenonah School of Wenonah, New Jersey, to be flown. So we're getting into the bicentennial years. This is the custodian you may know, maybe not. Nick. Yes, this is Nick.
Mr. Nick?
So this is Nick plowing in 1977, and I think I kind of remember that 77. That was a huge sport for him, 30-something inches. So back when we had the Wenonah Police, so Glenn was always here. Officer Glenn, then Sergeant Glenn, then Chief Glenn, and he was very big in the DARE program and getting the DARE program involved here. And then he brought me into it. That I would help him out with his DARE exercises. We would actually take the 6th grade class every year to Camp Anka Naked, and then do team building and challenge exercises. So with them, and as you see, this is not Gretchen Marks. This is Glenn Sheets jumping rope. So
Lou, when
yes.
does this take?
So I took this, and so this has got to be around the mid-90s. So mid-90s.
Because when did the 94?
For,
That was all thirty.
yeah.
Yeah. Could be later 90s. Yeah. But he still has. Sorry, Glenn. He still has a lot of hair. I'm not throwing stones. And then again, this is our DARE graduation. We would do a separate graduation for DARE right before the regular graduation for all the students, and try to get them to remember it and why, and the principles we taught them. That's playing in the back. And this is here in the old gym. This is part of the old original gym before the 2005 upgrade. And ending with some of the great work that was done by Bud and Betty Rose. Used to take care of this. I used to help out from time to time. What's that? Milk bottles, and the county would help out. And God bless my Lord. And one of my favorite ones, that's half my basement in there. So for the train layout, so good times with the county folks. So, and then we just recently put up our plaque. So finally, so we got it in the old building in 1894. So to remember the history, but we had no idea how much history we had until we just did this deep dive for the last couple of weeks. And there she's at. And we noted on the bottom a quote that maybe you heard Jack Shepherd used to talk about. There's 3 reasons to move and stay in Wenonah. We had a police force that knew everybody's name and knew everybody's family. We had an ambulance that you could call at 3 in the morning and put you back to bed. So, and then you had and last but not least, you had the school. So that was our prize gem in town. Yep, we still have the school, so, which is great. So, and that's all I got. So I figured I did a lot of emphasis on the old stuff that no one's ever seen. So, you know, it literally has come out of that box and hasn't been seen in 120 something or more years. So